All right, guys. So today we're going to be talking about Bitcoin, but before we do so, please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We usually bring in new TAs about the hottest cryptocurrencies in the market. We meet on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. So make sure to subscribe and hit the alert button so you can be notified whenever we put some new content out. Also, please follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at Ali_charts. You can follow my co-host at Cash at Mac and Co with a zero at the end. And you can also follow Jonathan at Just Analysis One. So now let's start with Bitcoin. I'm going to start with some on-chain metrics that I have found that are like quite significant for the price action that we have been seeing lately. There have been some talks in crypto Twitter about the idea of a correction before higher highs, right? So based on the in and out of the money or on price model by into the block, what we can see is that Bitcoin sits above a strong support. Basically, the whole zone between 53,000 to 57,000 is currently acting as a strong support. This is an average price of basically 55,500, right? So as long as Bitcoin continues to hold above 55,500, or the minimum price point will be 54,000, I believe that it has like a really strong chance of just continuing advancing further towards new all-time highs, as there is no significant resistance ahead. Only a daily candlestick close below the 54,000 support level could potentially lead to a brief correction towards 50,000, right, to collect liquidity before prices continue, to advance further. But I do believe that these demand wall right here at an average price of 55,500 at the minimum price point at 54,000 will potentially contain any spike in downward pressure. I am leaning bullish on Bitcoin because some of the network dynamics suggest so, right? So whenever we look at all the stable coin supply ratio on all exchanges, we see that the amount of stable coins on exchanges it's actually rising alongside prices, which is something that you want to see, right? What this tells you is that basically the amount of basically tether or stable coins on exchanges, which implies that the purchasing power behind in all cryptocurrency exchanges is rising, which usually leads to higher highs in terms of price actions for Bitcoin, right? We can also see that the number of new addresses being created on the network is also trending upward. So that's also another bullish sign, right? Because it's telling you that new interest is coming in, and there is more and more addresses that are being created, potentially with more addresses are basically buying Bitcoin, and that's why new addresses are being created. I mean, this is when we see the 7-day moving average, but when we see the 1-day moving average, we can see that yeah, the trend is basically upwards. Recently, the number of new addresses being created on the network made a higher high of 500,000 addresses on October 7th, although it declined, right? Because it's again a rising trend. It's once again trending upwards, and it could potentially make a higher high. If it does make a higher high, that's literally just another confirmation that prices are going to continue rising. The same thing happens when we see the number of large transactions on the network, right? Which basically is the number of those transactions with a greater value of $100,000. This is also printing a series of higher highs and higher lows, basically telling you that, I mean, this metric can literally act as a proxy of institutional investors and wealth activity. So what this tells you is that, yeah, I mean, as of right now, institutional investors and wealth are actually actively trading Bitcoin, which usually tends to lead to higher prices. Now, when we also look at the number of whales on the network with basically holding 100 to 10,000 Bitcoin, and this metric has literally been going up ever since September 25. And basically since the beginning of the month, we can see that approximately, yes, something like around 100 new wells have joined the network since then, which is a sign of basically more buying pressure behind Bitcoin. So as of right now, all the on-chain metrics are leaning bullish on this asset. But of course, right? I mean, there's always a little bit of volatility on the market to literally shake out some of the so-called weekends, right? But as long as Bitcoin basically holds above 54,000 or 55,500, I believe that prices will continue to march towards new all-time highs. But yeah, that's basically my take on Bitcoin from an on-chain perspective. Maybe you, Sheldon, and Jonathan are looking at something different from a technical perspective.
Not too much. I mean, I definitely am in the camp that I think the correction here is not only likely, but it should be deemed as necessary. If you are a long-term bull in Bitcoin like I am, I would like to see a retest lower, at least of the looking at the daily chart here of the daily Tenkan-sen, which kind of matches up with the prior highs here that we had in September 7th.
What price point does it sit? Sorry.
That would be at 52,400. Let's say 52,500. Oh, yesterday I was doing some analysis for a client, and there was a rising wedge yesterday on the hourly that we broke down below, and still kind of sink below there. I don't usually look at the hourly that much, but it was very, very top heavy yesterday. Now this doesn't mean it's going to continue south, but I did just want to point to a couple things that are very indicative of some higher it's a little too heavy. Like the optics bands down below, it's in very extreme conditions. You've got regular bearish divergence between the composite index and price, but at the same time you see Bitcoin crawling above 65 in the RSI, and it's still technically very, very, very divergent on the bearish side, and it needs to crack above higher here. If it can get to 50 or 58 to 59K, look at the volume profile for 2021 here. The volume profile thins out considerably. It's not a surprise it's facing a lot of pressure up here, because this is the third highest chunk of volume traded for 2021. In regards to the volume you were talking about, if you look at the volume profiles of the last 3 years, you look at 2019 and 2020, I mean, the volume that is traded up here near all-time highs is in line with the volume that was traded when it was at 9.5K. And the same with the volume that was traded in 2019 around 4K. So the only types of volume that are going to grow Bitcoin's volume profile and market profile and have these distribution zones is either a huge influx of new retail money, which there isn't. There's a lot more interest, but that there's not a ton more money. But there is a metric ton of new institutional players who are obviously participating up here, either in speculation or in accumulation. And so these volume profile levels are very, very indicative of some staying power and some for higher valuations here in the very near future.
All right, so basically, as of right now, I mean, you would like to see sort of a daily close above 59,000, if I remember correctly, for you to basically confirm that Bitcoin is going to go towards new all-time highs. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, it would. Yeah, it needs to get to around that 59K, and beyond that, I mean, this is the volume profile is very thin up here, and there's a lot of pent up demand still that it may not even cause a hiccup. I mean, it may just blast right past that 65K zone. It may not even pause there. It'll just kind of go right through it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. So it does seem like you're leaning also a little bit bullish on Bitcoin, right? I mean, you talked about the
Hmm.
possibility of a brief correction, but that brief correction may not happen if Bitcoin just closes above 59,000, right?
Correct. And, one of the cool things with the Ichimoku system is that, the Kumo twists are things that happen, well off into the future. But one of the peculiar things with these Kumo twists is that if a market is trending strongly, on or around the date of that Kumo twist, um, that's often a point of inflection for the market where it'll turn. So if we do see it continuing to rally towards October 25th, that is an area where people should probably take pause, and that's a time frame when the market may pull back, regardless of how much momentum is behind. If it's still going this strongly, till then it may pull back around October 25th.
Okay. Okay. That's great to know. So so what about you, Akash? Are you looking at something different from a lower term perspective?
I'm kind of aligning with what Jonathan is saying. Let me just share my screen. Right. So I think in today's article, right, top three, I mentioned that Bitcoin is stuck between two crucial levels, which is the 60K, somewhere between 58 to 60K, and 55 to roughly 56 to 55K is what I am looking for Bitcoin to stabilize. And then once it closes above like 60K, I think there's no stopping it. I think it will easily see a retest of the all-time high. Uh, but apart from that, I'm using this trend-based fib on this impulse wave and this retracement. And if that happens, then I think we can see 77.525, but sorry, $77,525. But I am expecting a minor correction here again to, like I mentioned, 55 to 56K. And it kind of lines up perfectly with the global in and out of the money right at the block. So here it shows that like the overall resistance level uh, is averaging out around 60K. It was kind of 58K probably 2 days ago, and now it's come down to 59K. And if you look at this, Bitcoin recently cleared this level, but now I think it needs to find cushion somewhere around 55K, 56K roughly. I think this is where it raised to, but in the event that we lose out the support, I think 50K, 52 seems inevitable, and it kind of aligns with what Jonathan was talking about, this particular peak where we first hit and missed. So this is where it coincides with, right? On Bitstamp, since Bitcoin has already retested this level here, but on other exchanges it hasn't. So I'm expecting anywhere between, if we fail to close above 60K, right, it's the retracement down to 52K is what I'm looking at.
All right, all right, all right. That's good to know. I mean, so right now it does seem that we're all leaning sort of bullish on Bitcoin, but of course, right? I mean, given the significant gains that Bitcoin has posted since the beginning of the month, it will be reasonable to assume that a correction will come, right? Especially as market participants go into FOMO and going to extreme levels of greed. It will be great to see a correction for the healthy continuation of the uptrend.
I'm
But yeah, I
sorry.
mean, yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of greed, right? I just noticed that the fear and greed index is at extreme greed right now, 78, and kind of at the levels where like in the initial leg up where we went to 60K and above, stayed beyond that for a very long time. That's where we are right now over here, 80K. I mean 80 at 80. So I think it's time to like exercise caution around here.
Yeah, I mean, like the right moment to buy Bitcoin was with the on the break of 45,000, right? As of right now, of course, you will be waiting for a brief correction before re-entering the market. But having in mind, of course, that breaking above the all-time high of around $65,000 could potentially push Bitcoin towards 77,000. I mean, my first target is actually 80,000, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But as of right now, it does seem that for the midterm price action, we're all leaning bullish. So yeah, if you like this TA, make sure to subscribe to YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter. And keep an eye for the other price prediction articles that we're bringing to you.